Our first reconstruction this month is about a murder. Jackie Waines was 35, the mother of 3 children. Her husband had deserted her and the children had been taken into care. Jackie was a prostitute, working on the streets of Bristol. She was murdered on the evening of the 20th of April. It was a bitterly cold Saturday night, a time which locals might remember because there were a lot of visitors in the area for the last day of the badminton horse trials. Our reconstruction starts in St Paul's, near Bristol's city centre. Jackie worked the streets of St Paul's, where everyone, it seems, knew her. But she was a loner. She only had one real friend, Avril Miles, with whom she shared a house.
As far as I'm concerned, she was more a sister than anything else. She's a good kid, you know. If anybody wanted any help, she would give them. She wouldn't ask twice. But if she wanted help from them, it's a different thing altogether. They judged Jackie because she's dressed scruffy, she was this, she was that. But I mean, people just go by the way she was dressed. You don't judge people like that.
Jackie worked that Saturday night after visiting Avril in hospital.
Comes back on again.
Yeah, a bit nifty, ain't it?
Yeah.
Lots of people saw her between 8 and 10 o'clock. At 11:15, she walked up Brigstock Road with another girl.
I got picked up last night. When they let me go, I come back out and did a 30.
The red Cortina was parked on the corner of Hepburn Road, where Jackie lived. Since she got straight into the car, without negotiating first, her friend wondered if Jackie knew the man. She remembers him as having curly blonde hair. He turned right at the top of Brigstock Road into Ashley Road. By 11:10, Jackie had returned to the area, Ashley Road in the middle of St Paul's. A prostitute saw her on the other side of the street, getting into a small escort type of van. She didn't see it drive away. 10 minutes later, when she looked again, Jackie was walking the other way, up Ashley Road. It was the last time she was seen alive. At midnight, 9 miles away, some young men were on their way home from a night on the town. They pulled into a track off Perrin Pit Lane, a country road near Frampton Cotterell. They were listening to music and smoking. They had no idea of what was to happen in the next 20 minutes. At 12:10, Mr. and Mrs. Shilson passed the end of the track where the boys were parked.
Oh, look at that chap ditching rubbish. You ought to take his number and report him to the council.
The van must have parked only yards behind the boys, yet they hadn't noticed it.
Darts, I'll take you on a darts next time.
But at about 12:15, sometime after the van had gone, they did see a dark Cortina arrive. At 12:20, Craig Howell and his girlfriend Julie passed the same corner. They too saw the Cortina, and then they saw what looked as if it could be a body. Julie turned the car round further down the lane, but by the time they got back to the spot, the Cortina had gone. Jackie's body was found only an hour after she was last seen alive. She'd been stabbed several times.
I want people to help the police to find him before he does it again. You know, you don't know who it's going to be next.
A tragic end there to a sad life. Detective Superintendent Malcolm Hughes is in charge of that investigation. Is there any apparent motive that you can find so far?
Well, the motive certainly isn't robbery, because when her body was found, she still had money with her. There are two possibilities, really, I think. One, that she had some sort of argument with a client of hers, or the more sinister possibility that somebody went out with the express intention of killing a prostitute, or Jackie in particular.
She didn't seem, from what I know, to have been a very argumentative sort of person.
No, that is quite true, and it seems that the latter is the case, and we seem to have a very dangerous man still at large.
Now, you need to trace a number of people, as we saw in our reconstruction. First of all, the man in the red cortina with the curly blonde hair.
Yes, we know that at about 10:45 p.m. that night, she got into a red cortina in Brigstock Road. All the indications are that she may have known this man. He's a man with blonde hair, fair hair, which was curly and may have been highlighted. And they drove off into Ashley Road. Now, if she did know that man, she may have had some conversation and told him of her intentions that night, which of course would be important to us.
So you'd like him to come forward. You'd also like the man who was seen there in the escort type of van. We don't know exactly what sort of van it was or even what colour it was, but we need the man who was driving that van to come forward.
Yes, at about 11:10 in Ashley Road, she was seen to get into a van, which is the same size as an escort van, but we don't know the colour of it. That man is important, but he appears to be the last man that we know that spoke to her.
Right, if we can just get the geography straight of the area. Jackie's body was actually found there at Frampton Cottrell, which is a small village about 9 miles north of the centre of Bristol. How long would it have taken, in fact, to drive there on the M32?
It takes about 15 minutes, in fact. But of course, Jackie could have been murdered anywhere between St Paul's and the spot where her body was found and taken there and dumped.
Right. Well, it was in Perrinpit Lane where she was found, and there's a bridle path, which we're going to see in a minute, which is where those two boys were parked. Those boys were parked listening to music. There it is. And there's the track where they were listening to the music. And her body was dumped just about 10 yards behind their car at the start of that bridle path. Is that right?
Yes, that's right.
Now, what about the white van that was seen in that lane, Perrinpit Lane, by the couple passing by?
Yes. I believe this is probably the most important sighting of the lot. Mr. and Mrs. Shilston drove past there at about 12:10 on the Sunday morning. They saw the white van, and standing beside it, they saw a man who's described as slim build, wearing blue jeans and a multicoloured bomber jacket, similar in every respect to this one.
It's not an entirely uncommon jacket, but...
No, indeed it's not. They're quite popular, but we know that that man was wearing that type of jacket. Now, at his feet, he had a white bundle, a large white bundle, they described it as, and I believe that that was the body of Jacqueline Waines. The van itself is white. It's rather larger than a transit-type van, and more importantly, it had on the offside some damage. It looked like an impact mark and some scratches, as you can see there. Now, we would obviously want to locate that vehicle, and certainly we'd want to locate a man who wore a jacket like this, who would have access to a vehicle like that.
And it's just possible that somebody may have patched up that damage on the offside of that van.
Yes, indeed. If anybody knows of a vehicle which has had that sort of damage repaired, then of course we would want to talk to them. Of
course. And also the man driving the dark-coloured Mark IV or Mark V Cortina that we saw there.
Yes, that's intriguing. He hasn't come forward. I believe he must have seen something. It's very important that I see him, and I'm quite prepared to see him anywhere and in complete confidence.
Now, you've never found one of her shoes. That might provide a clue if you can find the other one of her shoes.
Yes, that's true. Jackie was wearing a pair of shoes, and this is the right one. The left one is missing. Despite quite an extensive search, we haven't found it. If anybody has found or knows the location of a sandal like that, then of course we would want to speak to them.
And all these people you'd like to come forward, and it is in absolute confidence, of course, isn't it?
Yes, indeed. I'm not interested on why those people were down in St Paul's, if they were looking for the services of a prostitute. That doesn't worry me. I need their help, and I would want them to come forward and talk to me tonight in confidence.
To prevent another tragic murder like that?
Yes, indeed.
Thank you very much indeed. If you can help, please do ring us. It is in absolute confidence. You can speak to a BBC researcher if you prefer. The number 01811 8055, or you can call Avon and Somerset Police at Bristol 565 333. That's 0272, the code for Bristol, 565 333. Detectives have been baffled for over a year now by the death of a London woman, Beverley Trendall. Police found her body in her flat about a month after her death. She'd been stabbed. Beverley's diary and some of her personal letters were missing. Exactly when she died is not certain. What is known is that from Halloween onwards, October the 31st last year, Beverley wasn't seen again. Why she died is a mystery too, unless you can remember something which could lead police to her killer. Beverley's mother, Betty, agreed to appear in our reconstruction in the hope that something might jog your memory.
You just feel so cold inside, you know, it's such a dreadful thing to happen, and not knowing what's happened or who's done it. And this is the awful thing about it, I think. She didn't flit about with a lot of people and get involved in different things. You know, you just can't understand why.
Beverley Trendall lived in a council flat on this estate in Northolt, West London. When she moved here 4 years ago, she'd been very pleased to get a place of her own.
Beverley's flat was very compact the way she'd worked it out. Everything was worked out to a definite degree, you know, so that she had everything just where she wanted it and there was nothing sort of out of place, really. She had this large book, like an exercise book. I think she would have put in it the things that happened, particularly from day to day, or something new had occurred, she would put it in there, that sort of thing. She was very precise, and she did enjoy her privacy very much. This is the reason that she never told people to casually drop in. She was like a different person in Spain. I don't know, as soon as she got there, she seemed to change completely. The sun, she loved the sun, and she loved to be sort of casually dressed and sort of just wander around.
¿Cómo está usted?
¿Cómo está usted?
She definitely would have liked to settle in Spain, and I think really this was it. She wanted to get her Spanish to perfection, so of course she decided she would take these lessons.
Buenas tardes, señorita.
Buenas tardes, señorita.
The weekly lessons took place at her Spanish teacher's house. She had booked one for 6 o'clock on Wednesday, October the 31st, Halloween. She didn't arrive. Her movements throughout that week are a mystery.
You like to repeat them straight after me.
Police do know that on the Monday, she started a part-time job for a cleaning company.
It's your first day here as well, is it?
Yes, it is.
I'm still half asleep. It's that bleeding early. It's the worst thing about this job.
I'm trying to get an evening job. Mind you, the traffic's not bad this time in the morning.
Well, you've got a car then?
Yeah, it's old, but it goes.
I wouldn't mind an evening job.
I'm going for an interview at Hillingdon Hospital on Thursday. I think there might be something going at Heathrow.
Mind you, evenings. I wouldn't like to think I was losing my evening.
No, well, there is that about.
The Byron pub is just round the corner from Beverley's flat. She was also seen there that week. The barmaid was Vivian Starsmere.
2 halves of lager, pineapple and orange, please.
She remembers taking that order from a man in his 30s who was having a drink with Beverley and 2 other people. None of her companions that night have been seen since.
Pubs were a place of often meeting somebody or just going to dropping in with somebody, but they weren't somewhere that she went sort of all the time or even say once a week.
Isn't he lovely? You can always see his beer gut in photos. He says it's the way he's sitting.
Well, he looks all right to me. I'll bring some of mine in tomorrow, if you like.
Who's that, then?
Well, I got quite a few of my bloke in Spain, Pepe, because I haven't been over there since May. Actually, I've got a new boyfriend. Going out tonight for a drink, as a matter of fact.
What's he like, then?
Well, I haven't known him only a few weeks, but he's older than me.
What, about 40?
Yeah. He's not bad looking. He's got a really nice personality.
Has he now? And I suppose he's taking you out in his big flash motor tonight, is he?
No, I'll take mine.
Enjoy yourself.
Yeah. See you tomorrow.
See ya.
But Janet Swan didn't see Beverley again. In fact, she was possibly the last person Beverley spoke to. We know she went home that Wednesday after work. She always used to park her car so that she could see it from her flat. It could have been that afternoon. Certainly it was one day around then that a neighbour remembers seeing something that surprised her. A rare visitor in Beverley's flat. Early that evening, children toured the estate, playing Halloween games. But at Beverley's door, there was no answer.
I feel now at this stage, if something can be done, I owe it to her for her sake, and also for maybe somebody else. Who knows?
Well, Detective Inspector Roger Parsons has been in charge of this investigation for the past year, and still no clue, for example, as to who those people in the pub were.
No, we've carried out extensive inquiries on these people, and they haven't yet come forward, and they could be very important witnesses, and I do ask them, if they see this programme or people know them, ask them to come and contact us at Southall Police Station.
Could we have your description of them?
There was two men, aged about 30 years. We have not a lot more description. They were just about 5'8" average, but with them was the coloured girl. She's a half-caste, but very attractive with an Afro-style hair, and I feel sure she would have stood out in the Byron public house.
What about the man who was seen waving at Beverley's flat window? Any leads on him?
Again, we have no leads, and this is a very important clue, because Beverley kept her flat to herself, and to allow a man into the flat would mean that she knew him well. And again, I ask him to come forward if he sees the picture of himself, or if people know him, to notify us, please.
And no description of him at all?
Again, about 35 years, grey hair, swept back, and as I say, quite attractive. That's
and
all
the
we have.
diary, is that a very important clue, the diary and the personal letters that went missing?
This diary is very important. It went missing. It's never been found. This is a mock-up, but Beverley kept every item that she did during a day in this book. And without a doubt, if we found this, it could well solve this crime.
Now, there's also some mystery surrounding Beverley's car. Her white Volkswagen was being driven down Yedding Lane, Northolt, very near where she lived, seen the day after it's thought that she died. And it wasn't parked in its usual position in the car park when her body was actually found. So how much significance do you attach to that?
I attach a lot of significance to it, because as you can see from where the car's parked, Beverley couldn't see it. And one thing she always did, she parked the car opposite her kitchen window so she could see it, because it was her pride and joy. And she can't be seen from that window from her flat.
Can you think of any reason why she should have been killed?
None at all. I've been on the case for a year. I feel I know Beverley like a sister. She was a nice girl. She had very few friends, but those friends, they liked her, and there is no reason why this has occurred. And I ask people to come forward and help us on this inquiry.
Yes, we need the people in the pub, and we need the car, and we need the man in the flat. If you can help, give us a ring on 01 811 8055, or ring police direct at Southall Police Station. The number there is 01 900 8147 or 8148. That's 01 900 8147 or 8148.
Curiously, Crimewatch isn't so much about crime as about its victims. It's these victims that have aroused your sympathy and your concern, and our next reconstruction is all about one victim who lived alone in St Paul's in Bristol. Mrs Violet Milsom was 62. She was a grandmother, and 6 weeks ago someone murdered her. When police arrived at her flat, they, and the medical crews as well, were shocked and distressed by the injuries that had been inflicted on her. They began a search for clues. They now want to enlist your help. Our reconstruction begins nearly a month before her death in Bristol. It shows none of the violence, only the events that led up to it.
Phil, I would like to talk more about that, but we'll pause some music first. The Radio Orchestra, appropriately, the Song of Summer.
Violet Milsom lived alone in a dingy basement flat. Her grandchildren were welcome visitors, but they couldn't get to see her often, and she was a lonely soul, with Ginger her only company. She was rather scared as well. Each night she lodged a little message in her window to ward off strangers. At 6 p.m, as St Paul's began to come alive, Violet's day was almost over. Tuesday, September the 3rd, at about 10 o'clock. She disturbed 3 young men who'd smashed a pane of glass in her door. Thursday, the 26th of September, 3 weeks on, and 5 days before she died, Violet went shopping for a chest of drawers.
Can I help you?
How much is that one?
I think, yeah, it's a tenner, that one.
The owner remembers Violet because she couldn't spare a tenner from her weekly pension, and she agreed to give him a deposit.
You can't leave a favour deposit, then we'll give you a receipt and then we'll come and pick it up when you want. Right, I'll get your receipt.
Next day, Friday the 27th, the owner saw Violet once again. She seemed to know this man. If it was you, or if you know who he is, please call us. Monday, September the 30th. It's pension day, and having collected her allowance, Violet went to do the weekly shopping. It wasn't hard to spend about £5 of the 36 on Rice Krispies, tin soup and cat food. That afternoon, a helpful neighbour was doing some gardening for Violet.
It does look nice, John. When do you think you'll be able to come and finish it then?
I don't think it'll be tonight.
Oh, why don't you come tonight? I never open my door after 6 o'clock, you know.
Well, it'll probably be sometime tomorrow.
After her neighbour left, Violet went to fetch the evening paper. As far as we know, it's the last time she left her home alive. What happened next was seen in detail by a witness sitting right across the street. Old Sam, an ageing tramp, was in his usual doorway outside the Shady Grove Cafe. And another witness, David Crowley, remembers walking past the flat that night because at about 8 o'clock, 3 youths came out of a garden and pushed past him. And another witness, on her way home at midnight, remembers a man appearing from a gateway near Violet's flat. Old Sam saw all of this as well. He must have done. Yet, ironically, though he can see, he doesn't understand. He lives in a world of his own. Next morning, Violet's neighbour came back to do the gardening as he'd promised. When he'd finished, he went down to the flat to borrow a broom. He discovered Violet's body. She'd been strangled, sexually assaulted, and horribly mutilated. Detective Superintendent Malcolm Hughes is the man seeking the killers, and you've been in charge of murder investigations before, but this, I think, is the worst, or certainly one of the worst you've ever come across.
Yes, I've dealt with a number of murders, and without a doubt, this is one of the worst, yes.
You've brought a clue. What's this?
This is a belt, I believe, from a summer dress. When we found Mrs. Milsom's body, this was tied around her wrist, and without doubt has been used by the killer to tie her up.
Not necessarily hers, you think, then? It's nylon?
Yes, it's a nylon material. It looks as though it's from a summer dress. Despite all our inquiries, we cannot be sure this belonged to Mrs. Milsom and could well have been taken there by her killer.
Right. Now, there were several witnesses, as we saw, and people that you badly need to trace. Let's start, if we can, with the three youths who were seen, they sort of bumped into. Well, actually, there was the man, of course, first at the trading post, wasn't there, with the long hair. What do we know about him?
Yes. We know that he was with Mrs. Milsom. They appeared to be quite friendly and obviously knew each other. Now, despite all our inquiries, we haven't found him yet, and I would like to speak to him, obviously.
Right. Then there was the witness, David Crowley, walking past. Three youths bumped into him coming out of a garden.
Yes, that was about 8 o'clock on Monday the 30th. I'm not saying they're the murderers, but they were certainly in the area at a very important time, and I would like to talk to them.
And, of course, the man coming out of the gate, I think, very close to her house at about midnight.
Yes, he's an interesting man. He was coming out of a gate next door to hers. Despite all our inquiries, nobody knows him in that house. Nobody knows him in Mrs. Milsom's house. And it's very important I find him and talk to him.
We'll come back to just how important in a moment, but you've got a card there. Can we just have a look at that and why?
Yes, indeed. When we looked at Mrs. Milsom's belongings at her flat, and amongst some documentation, we found this card. It's a Christmas card. On the front it says, "For my sweetheart at Christmas." Inside, it says, "To Violet from Steve." Now, despite speaking to all her relatives and friends, we have not been able to find Steve, and I would again like to speak to him.
You want to speak, in fact, to anybody who knew Violet Milsom?
Yes, I do.
Now, you're really worried about this murder for a particular reason. Can you explain what it is?
Mrs. Milsom was brutally and sadistically killed. I believe that the man who killed her is mentally disturbed and dangerous. I also believe if he's not caught, he may kill again. I also believe that somebody knows who he is, or may suspect they know who he is. And if there's anybody who knows who killed Mrs. Milsom, or who suspects somebody of killing her, then please come forward and speak to me, because they may prevent another terrible crime.
You really think it's a likelihood that this man will kill again?
I think it's a possibility that he will kill again, yes.
Well, if you think you can help, please do ring us here in the studio. Here's the number, 01 811 8055. Remember, you can speak in absolute confidence. Or you can ring Bristol Police at Trinity Road Police Station, Bristol 267 985. That's 0272 267 985.
In our October programme, we asked you to identify this small ticket. West Yorkshire Police believe it could lead them to the killer of 66-year-old Sandy McClelland. He was stabbed to death, and this ticket was found near his body on October the 7th this year. We received a lot of calls about it, and we can now reveal far more about this strange case. Tonight, for the first time, a number of unusual forensic clues will be made public by the man who's leading the inquiry, Detective Superintendent Ken Baines. First of all, though, let's see our reconstruction. There was snow on the ground when we actually made the film, but remember we were having fine and sunny weather in September when Sandy McClelland disappeared from his home in Leeds. Sandy lived on this estate in Winmore on the outskirts of the city. Every Friday he'd walk down to the local pub, the Pender's Arms, where he was known by a lot of the regulars. Sandy's stepson, Brian Horn, and wife Elizabeth lived just round the corner from his flat. They spent a lot of time together, and Sandy looked forward to the Friday pint and game of dominoes. Since he rarely socialised with anyone else, the Horns were a little surprised when he told them that someone was coming to stay overnight at the flat.
We now know that Sandy McClelland had a visitor on the evening of 5th of September. That's exactly a week before he went missing. We'd like to believe that this man is called Stuart. Brian and Elizabeth Horn, the stepson and stepdaughter, tell us that they visited the flat about 11:15 on that Thursday evening and actually saw Sandy with this man. He's about 30 years of age, 5'6" to 5'8", with sandy-coloured hair or light brown hair. He told the Horns that he was separated, that he got 2 children. Very, very vital that we find him as soon as possible.
This is Stuart. He's come down to Leeds about a driving job. Well, you know, like a cup of coffee? You're lucky. The kettle's on.
You think you get your job done? Oh, should do. You know, I've got exams, CSEs, O-levels, and references. I should be okay.
We've been down the Red Line. What a pint.
You should have come from here when I went, were you?
Well, I didn't know what you were about, did I? There you are. There's your coffee.
Yep.
Yeah, listen. You like a sandwich?
No, not me.
It would seem that the purpose of the visit with this man, Stewart, was to try to get a driving job in the Leeds area, possibly connected with the mining industry. So therefore I want every possible firm, or every firm in the area, visiting with a view to seeing if they had anybody, or set anybody on, or interviewed somebody around about the 5th or 6th of September for such a job. Now we've got to concentrate on the evening of Thursday, the 12th of September. That's the last time he was last seen alive. We know now that he went to the Asda supermarket at Crossgates with Brian and Elizabeth Horn in Sandy's own car. That's the Ford Cortina, the light green one. They were accompanied by the 16-year-old granddaughter, Lynn, who they dropped off en route. They went into the supermarket. The indications are, as far as the Horns are concerned, that Sandy was in a very, very good mood. There was quite a lot of byplay between them whilst they were going around the supermarket.
Hello. Have you got everything now? I think so. I'll see you later. Bye. Yeah. We'll meet again, don't we?
They came back from the supermarket to the Horns house in Whitelath Approach. It would seem that the car was driven by Brian both to the supermarket and back to their house.
You coming in?
Oh, I've got a bit of heartburn. I think I'll go home. Have a bath. Take an early night.
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Give us the keys, lad.
Yeah, we'll see you later, innit?
Aye. Aye.
Bye.
Aye. Good night. Good night. Good night.
And then Sandy drove the car, it would seem, back to his own flat in Willigarth Avenue. About 10 minutes later, there was a knock on the door at the Horns, and Sandy had come back.
Brian, you left your cigarettes? No doubt you'll need them before the morning.
See you, darling.
Good night, lad.
Good night.
He left the house straight away, but we do not know whether he drove off or whether he'd come back to the house in his car or whether he walked back to his flat. That is the last positive sighting that we've got of Sandy McClelland still alive at 8:20 p.m. when he left there. The next positive sighting that we've got of Sandy McClelland's motor car is at 11:30 a.m. on Monday the 7th of October, when it was found on the car park in the centre big house known as the Bethel Street car park. This car park is adjacent to the Calder and Hebble Canal. It's also adjacent to the Wheelers Working Men's Club. Quite a busy club that seems to have a considerable number of members there.
Wheelers was busy the night Sandy disappeared. There were several charity acts on and the place was full. Perhaps you were there. Remember, it was Thursday, September the 12th. Could you have seen Sandy's car in the car park, either that night or any time afterwards?
We need to be getting in amongst the shoppers to see if we can establish, first of all, when the car was left there, and if possible, of course, establishing who exactly or actually left the car on the car park.
Yeah, okay.
So police need to speak to anyone who knew or saw Sandy or his green Ford Cortina in the Leeds Brighouse area around September the 12th. They'd also like anyone who's known Sandy to contact them tonight. He has moved around a lot in his life. He lived in Edinburgh for many years, so perhaps you knew him then. In 1968, he moved to Corby for a job as a storeman with the local council. Then he lived in Grantham for 3 years. He moved back finally to Edinburgh to Grangemouth in 1983, but he moved south to Leeds in April this year. Well, Detective Superintendent Waines, we do know about Stuart from the film. Now, we have a video fit of him. Could we have another description?
Yes, he's about 30 years of age, 5'6" to 5'8", with either sandy or light-coloured hair, smooth skin, very smartly dressed. Absolutely essential that we trace this man. He may not be connected in any shape or form with the killing, but we need desperately to find him.
We do need to eliminate him.
And we need to eliminate him as well.
Right. Now, the clues themselves. The first clue is the bedspread, which was found in the boot of the car with Sandy's body. What does that tell you?
Yes, as a result of some forensic examination by using camera filters, we have in fact been able to, or they've been able to bring up a trademark on there, which indicates, as you can see on the screen, that it was in actual fact manufactured in 1961 for the British Army by a firm just on the Lancashire-Yorkshire border.
The other important thing is that this little ticket that we talked about before was stapled to the bedspread.
Yes, and the indication so far is that that is probably either a dry cleaning or a laundry ticket. And again, we would ask anybody who's worked in such business for the last 24 to 25 years, if they can identify the format of that ticket, would they get in touch with us as soon as possible? Absolutely, again, essential.
Right, now the clothes that Sandy was found in weren't his own. They were too big for him, weren't they?
Yes, that's correct. The jeans, similar to the ones on the model, were 4 inches too long for him in the leg. The jumper is about a medium size, but of course the most significant thing is the head warmer. It appears like a balaclava, but it is in actual fact an army issue head warmer or cap comforter used by the military for some considerable time. And again, with using camera filters, we've been able to bring up once more the date of the manufacture of that, 1952, by a firm called W.H. White & Sons Limited in Leek in Staffordshire, and we know that that firm manufactured over 300,000 of those head warmers between 1952 and 1956.
And you deduced something else very important from one mark on it.
Yes, we saw there's some indication of what appeared to be red ink. Again, this wasn't visible to the naked eye, so we sent that to the laboratory as well, for where they were able to use this particular process.
You can see some faint traces of red printing on this. It looks as if it might be a number. I can't see much more under a normal light. I think what we'll try is looking at it under this laser. It produces very, very intense green light. And we'll just have a look and see what's actually there. Oh, it looks more like a name than a number. I can see the letters K, E, L, L, E, T, T. Yes, it looks like the name Kellett, I think. It's fluorescing quite brightly, certainly much better than we could see it before.
Well, that's obviously an exciting new lead. You need to find somebody called Mr. Kellett now.
Yes, who's written his name on that head warmer, whether he at the time, whether he had it whilst he was in the army or whether he's had it since then. Absolutely essential.
And there could be army connections because of the bedspread and the head warmer.
Exactly. It's rather some strange coincidence that we've got two rather dissimilar items in the boot of the car.
Anybody else that you'd like to speak to?
Yes, we are looking at the suggestion that Sandy may well have been involved in some homosexual activity, and it would be to that particular area of people who may involve themselves in such activities that we would seek information about Sandy McClelland himself or someone who may have been responsible for his very brutal and vicious death. 66-year-old man who really didn't deserve to die as he did.
Mr. Waines, thank you very much indeed. And the number to ring if you can help in complete confidence, 01811 8055. Or if you prefer, ring Leeds Police Direct on Leeds 435353. That's 0532, the code for Leeds, 435353. Our last case is the mysterious murder of a Polish doctor. Danuta Kaczmarska had lived in this country for over 20 years and was a successful GP in Birmingham. 4 weeks ago, she was murdered in her own home, and the police now feel that even her closest friends perhaps might not have known everything about the doctor. Our reconstruction starts in Hall Green in Birmingham. It's 9 o'clock at night on January the 22nd. Paul Kernich, a keen amateur photographer, lives just a few houses down the road from Dr. Kaczmarska. When smoke started creeping into his living room, he thought his house was on fire. It wasn't, but his phone call led to an extraordinary police investigation.
Fire brigade, please.
Dr. Danuta Kaczmarska owned 2 surgeries in Birmingham, dividing her time between them. Some patients had trouble pronouncing her name, so she settled for Dr. K.
Morning, Irene.
Morning, Dr.
All right?
Yes, thanks. You?
Her personal life is something of a mystery. Police do know she contacted at least one man through his advertisement in a Lonely Hearts column. They met at the Robin Hood pub near her home.
Dear Box 9199, I am a university graduate in a full-time profession within your specified age group. Interested in people, travel, reading, eating, and drinking, but not in sport. A smoker, solvent, without any ties, bored and fed up at times. If you wish, you may contact me by ringing the following number and asking for Kate.
You live on your own, then?
Yes. I used to live with a friend for some years, but there was a terrible accident. He died in a fire.
Well, that sounds awful, Kate. I may call you Kate.
Well, I have to tell you, that's not my real name. I put Kate to answer your advertisement, but my name is Danuta. I hope you don't mind.
Not at all. Here's to the real lady, Danuta.
And to you.
This man has already provided detectives with invaluable information. And perhaps Danuta met other men through magazine or newspaper advertisements. If you met her under the name Kate or any other name, you too might help the police to piece together her story.
And now, madame, we must part.
Oh.
An old Polish custom, I believe.
Very good. Very good. Good night.
Good night.
No. Anyway, I'm off to London at the weekend, so I'll phone you when I get back.
January the 21st, the night before her death, and a relaxed phone call to a Polish friend.
Do widzenia, pa.
Police have now established that she'd applied to join a computer dating agency under another name, Diane Ansell, but she never posted that form. The following day, Wednesday, January the 22nd, Danuta went to her local supermarket on the Stratford Road, 4 minutes' walk from her home.
Oh, hello, Sandra. How are you?
I'm fine, thanks, Dr. Kay. How are you?
I'm fine. And the family, how are they, the children?
Yes, they're all right.
Oh, it's cold, isn't it?
Freezing. What's all this food in your bag?
Oh, I have a friend coming to dinner this evening, a patient and a friend, really. And I thought something interesting would be the thing to do. I got all these vegetables and so forth. I hope they like this kind of thing.
If you have a bottle of wine, they won't notice what they're eating.
No, that's true. Oh, I'm in a hurry. I must go, Sandra.
Have a nice evening.
Thank you. I will.
But that dinner was never to be. Did Dr. Kay meet anyone else on her way home to Coniston Close? Someone could have gone back to the house with her. We do know she phoned her surgery at 1:30 to check if she was needed that afternoon.
Hello? It's me, Irene. Are there any messages for me? Oh, good, good. I am just busy chopping up some lovely vegetables for dinner tonight. No, I enjoy doing it. All right, then. I'll see you tomorrow, then. Bye, bye.
At 3 o'clock, she was back at that same supermarket buying a bottle of red wine. The cashier, Helen Mills, has a good reason to remember her visit.
Any cigarettes?
No, thank you.
2.25, please.
There we are.
Thank you.
Oh, the other lady, she's not in today.
She is. She's helping out on a different department at the moment.
I see.
You
Is
change.
she still suffering with her cough?
She is, I'm afraid, yes.
Well, I've got her these tablets. Tell her to take one every 4 hours. That should sort her out.
Oh, thank you very much. That's
No
kind of
trouble.
you.
No trouble at all. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
At 3:30, a neighbour saw Danuta returning to her house. She was alone then, but her murderer must have been nearby, and was almost certainly someone she knew, who was perhaps already in the house. Possibly the last thing she did was to share a bottle of champagne with her killer.
Here we are.
Dr. Kay was dead within half an hour. She was killed in her kitchen and her body set on fire. Well, it's such a shocking murder. Detective Superintendent David Speake, you believe it must have been someone she knew, although not the lady who was due for dinner with her that night. It definitely wasn't her. But why do you think it was someone she must have known?
Well, there was no sign of any forced entry to the house, and obviously the person who was allowed into the house was welcomed by the doctor. And in fact, when he left, he double-locked the mortise lock and took away a key identical to this. In fact, we haven't found that key.
So it seems that he might have known the house quite well if he knew how to lock the house and what keys to use and so on.
Yes, there are indications because of the findings of a file and things like that. That in fact, shortly before her death, she was drinking champagne, which is Sainsbury's pink champagne, which may well have been bought by her murderer, but it's more likely it was bought by a friend or indeed a patient and given to her perhaps for Christmas. Anyone that bought such a bottle for Dr. K or knows of anyone that bought a bottle for her would like them to contact us. And indeed, we believe the murderer took this empty bottle away. And if anyone's found an empty bottle of Sainsbury's champagne abandoned, we'd like them to get in touch.
He also took with him the murder weapon, didn't he, which was an axe, you believe?
Yes, as shown there, it's only about 9 inches in length and quite an unusual axe. We've tried to find one identical and can't do it.
It belonged to her, didn't it?
It belonged to her, and she had it in her kitchen for some time, and again, that's gone, and obviously the murderer has thrown that away somewhere.
So whoever killed her took the keys, the empty bottle of champagne and the axe with him. He must have been quite conspicuous.
One would think so, but what we haven't had is anyone getting in touch of seeing anyone walking from Coniston Close onto the Stratford Road or in Hall Green on that day, and anyone that saw any person walking from that area would like them to contact us.
And perhaps they will tonight. You feel she could have met other men, perhaps through Lonely Hearts columns or Lonely Hearts organisations, like the man we saw in that reconstruction who's helped you a lot. That incidentally was an actor, not the actual man, but you want other people like that to come forward.
Yes, she was an outgoing lady. She met a number of men. Anyone that saw her in 6 months prior to her death, perhaps in a club, a pub, a restaurant or a hotel with someone, we urgently need them to contact us.
So anyone who might have seen her with somebody is very important. She's a very memorable lady.
Yes, indeed.
Right. Well, let's hope somebody does come forward. Thank you very much indeed. And the number to ring, if you can help at all, is 01 811 8055. Or if you prefer, you can call Birmingham Police Direct. They're on 2 numbers, 021 772 1065 or 021 772 1033. Just repeat that. That's 021, the code for Birmingham, 772, either 1065 or 1033.